The annual Morrison family Thanksgiving had always been a showcase of success. This year was no different, except that my sister Jessica was practically vibrating with excitement over her latest career breakthrough. "The merger is almost final," she announced, cutting into her turkey with precise, manicured strokes. "Once Stone Global partners with our firm, I'll be heading the entire West Coast division." I hid my smile behind a sip of wine. Stone Global, the mysterious tech consulting giant that had the business world buzzing. The company Jessica had been trying to court for months. "That's wonderful, honey," Mom beamed. "Another brilliant achievement. You always did know how to aim high." Dad nodded approvingly. "Takes after me, she does. Born with business sense." Then, like clockwork, they all turned to me with their usual mix of pity and disappointment. I learned to recognize the exact moment it would happen at these family gatherings. Right after praising the successful child, time to check on the failure. "And how's your job going, Diana?" Mom asked delicately, as if the word might break if she said it too forcefully. "Still at that reception desk," Jessica added with a smirk. "What company was it again? I can never remember." "Palmer Technologies," I said quietly, pushing mashed potatoes around my plate. "And yes, still answering phones." Jessica's smirk widened. 8 years now, isn't it? Well, I suppose someone has to do it. Not everyone can handle the pressure of real corporate success. If she only knew that her precious merger depended entirely on my signature, not that she ever discovered Stone Global was just one of my company's many aliases. The truth was almost too delicious to keep to myself. Almost. Speaking of Palmer Technologies, our cousin Michael chimed in. "Didn't they just get acquired by some bigger firm? Hope you don't lose your job, Diana. Though I'm sure Jessica could find you something entry-level at her company." I nodded vaguely, remembering the acquisition papers I'd signed last week. Palmer Technologies was indeed under new ownership, mine, just like the other 12 companies I'd quietly purchased over the past 5 years. The story of how I built my empire while my family thought I was just a receptionist started 8 years ago, though the seeds were planted much earlier. Growing up in the Morrison family meant constant pressure to follow the approved path. Prestigious business school, corporate ladder, corner office with a view. Jessica embraced it wholeheartedly. I had different ideas. Computer science. Dad had exploded when I announced my college major. "What kind of career can you build with that? You need a business degree to succeed in this world." Mom had been more subtle in her disapproval, but just as firm. "Darling, wouldn't you rather follow your sister's path? Look how well she's doing at Harvard Business School." But I stuck to my choice. While Jessica was memorizing business theories, I was learning to code. While she networked at cocktail parties, I built programs that would revolutionize how companies handled data security. By graduation, I had developed an encryption algorithm that caught the attention of several major tech firms. I sold it for $2 million, but not to any of the obvious buyers. Instead, I worked through shell companies and intermediaries, keeping my name out of every transaction. That was when I learned the power of anonymity. In the tech world, especially in cybersecurity, being unknown was an asset. Companies would pay premium prices to mysterious developers who could solve their problems without wanting public credit. So I started my first company under a different name. Then another, and another. Each one specialized in a different aspect of tech consulting, but all operated under the umbrella of my main corporation, which would eventually become Stone Global. The receptionist job at Palmer Technologies was originally just a cover story to appease my family. I needed something believable, something that would keep them from asking too many questions about my real work. But it turned into something far more valuable, an inside view of how traditional companies operated and, more importantly, failed. I watched as Palmer's management made mistake after mistake, missing opportunities that were obvious to anyone paying attention. When their stock price started to fall, I was ready. Through one of my shell companies, I began buying shares. Quietly, strategically, never enough at once to raise suspicion. The same pattern played out with other companies. While Jessica climbed the corporate ladder the traditional way, I was building a web of interconnected businesses, each piece carefully hidden behind layers of corporate anonymity. "More turkey, Diana?" Mom's voice pulled me back to the present. "Though you should be careful, receptionists need to maintain a professional appearance." I accepted the extra serving, thinking about the memo I needed to review after dinner. The one about Jessica's company and their desperate attempt to partner with Stone Global. The irony was almost too perfect. You know, Jessica said, reaching for her wine glass. My firm is launching a new tech division. We might need someone to handle the phones. Would you be interested in a change? The pay would probably be better than what you're making now. I thought about my net worth, currently hovering around $3.8 billion, and managed not to laugh. I'm comfortable where I am, but thanks. Comfortable, she sighed. That's your problem, Diana. You've never pushed yourself to achieve anything more. You're too comfortable being ordinary. Dad shook his head. At least she has steady work. Though I still think you could have done more with your life if you'd listened to us about business school. I took another sip of wine, remembering the latest Forbes article about Stone Global, the mysterious tech giant reshaping the industry. The reporter had tried for weeks to uncover the identity of the founder, speculating about various high-profile tech moguls and business leaders. No one had even come close to guessing it might be the quiet woman who supposedly answered phones at Palmer Technologies. Jessica, Mom said eagerly, tell us more about this merger with Stone Global. It sounds so exciting. My sister straightened up, preening. Well, I can't reveal too much, but let's just say I've been personally handling the negotiations. The CEO is very impressed with my proposals. I nearly choked on my wine. I had never even spoken to Jessica. All communication was handled through various executives and lawyers. Her proposals had been uniformly terrible, but I kept the process going because I needed access to her firm's client list. They're extremely selective about their partnerships, Jessica continued. The fact that they're even considering us is a huge compliment to my leadership. More like a testament to their due diligence, I muttered under my breath. What was that? Jessica asked sharply. Nothing, I smiled. Just thinking about how selective some companies can be. She narrowed her eyes. Well, it's not something you'd understand, given your position. Corporate strategy at this level is quite complex. If she only knew how many times I'd sat in my private boardroom, reviewing her company's painfully amateurish merger proposals, or how many of her brilliant innovations had made my executive team cringe. Speaking of positions, my Aunt Martha chimed in. Didn't you use to do something with computers, Diana? In college? Computer science degree, Dad grunted. Never did anything with it, though. I thought about the 3 patents currently revolutionizing cybersecurity, all registered under various shell companies, about the encryption software protecting government agencies around the world, about the artificial intelligence system I developed that was quietly transforming how global corporations handled data. Never really found my niche in tech, I said mildly, passing the cranberry sauce. As dinner wound down, Jessica couldn't resist one more dig. Don't worry, Diana. Not everyone is cut out for success. Someone has to answer the phones, right? I smiled, thinking about the meeting scheduled for tomorrow morning, the one where Stone Global's CEO would finally be revealed to her firm's management team. You're absolutely right, I said. Someone has to answer the phones. By the way, good luck with that merger. I have a feeling tomorrow's meeting will be very illuminating. Jessica raised an eyebrow, but before she could respond, her phone buzzed. Her eyes widened as she read the message. The Stone Global CEO is coming to tomorrow's meeting in person, she gasped. This is huge. They never make personal appearances. Mom clapped her hands in delight. Oh, Jessica, they must be really impressed with you. Well, I said, standing up, I should head home. Early day tomorrow. Lots of phones to answer. As I drove home to my penthouse apartment, the one my family thought was a modest studio in a questionable neighborhood, I couldn't help but smile. Tomorrow would certainly be interesting. My phone buzzed with a message from my executive assistant. Final merger documents are ready for your review, Ms. Morrison. Also, the Forbes reporter is still trying to schedule an interview with Stone Global's mysterious CEO. I texted back. Tell Forbes I'll consider an interview next week. But first, we have a merger meeting to attend. Tomorrow, Jessica would finally learn who really owned the company she'd been trying so desperately to impress. Tomorrow, my family would discover that their ordinary daughter had built an empire while they weren't looking. But tonight, I was just Diana, the receptionist who didn't amount to much. And somehow, that made tomorrow's revelation even sweeter. The next morning, I arrived at Jessica's firm 30 minutes early, not as the CEO of Stone Global, but as Diana, the receptionist, wearing the same modest clothes I'd worn to Thanksgiving dinner. The security guard barely glanced at me as I walked through the lobby. My executive team was already in place, scattered throughout the building in various roles. My CFO posed as a maintenance worker. My head of operations sat in the lobby reading a newspaper. My chief legal officer was disguised as a coffee cart vendor. At precisely 9:55 a.m., Jessica strutted through the lobby in her designer suit, not even noticing me sitting quietly in the corner. She was too busy barking orders into her phone. I want everything perfect for this meeting. The Stone Global CEO never makes personal appearances. This is our chance to really impress them. I smiled, remembering how many times I'd reviewed her company's proposals, each one more desperate than the last. They needed this merger badly. Their last 3 quarters had been disastrous, though they'd managed to keep that quiet. At 10 a.m. sharp, I stood up and walked to the elevator. Jessica was already in the conference room with her management team, probably rehearsing her presentation one last time. I changed in my private elevator, the one installed secretly during the building's last renovation. The modest dress was replaced by a tailored Armani suit. The simple ponytail became an elegant updo. Even my posture changed, transforming from the apologetic slouch of someone used to being overlooked to the confident stance of a woman who owned everything around her. My executive team converged on the conference room floor, shedding their disguises as they walked. By the time we reached the doors, we were no longer playing parts. We were Stone Global's leadership, ready to reveal exactly who they'd been trying to impress all these months. The room fell silent as we entered. Jessica stood at the head of the table, her presentation ready to go. Her smile faltered slightly as she saw me. "Diana, what are you doing here? This is a private meeting." I walked to the other end of the table, my team arranging themselves around me. "Hello, Jessica, Mom, Dad." Our parents sat along one side of the table. Jessica had invited them to witness her moment of triumph. "Perfect. I don't understand," Jessica stammered. "Where is the CEO of Stone Global?" "You're looking at her," I said quietly. The silence that followed was absolute. Jessica's mouth opened and closed several times, but no sound came out. Mom dropped her designer handbag. Dad's face went from red to white to red again. "That's impossible." Jessica finally managed. "You're a receptionist. You answer phones at Palmer Technologies." Actually, my CFO interjected smoothly. "Ms. Morrison owns Palmer Technologies, along with 12 other major tech companies. Stone Global is just one division of her larger corporation." I sat down at the head of the table, enjoying the way Jessica's perfect posture had crumbled into shocked slumping. "Palmer Technologies was my first acquisition," I explained. "I kept the receptionist story as a cover while I built something bigger, something none of you could see because you were too busy feeling sorry for me." But, Mom sputtered. All these years, I continued, "I've been building an empire while you thought I was just answering phones. Every time you pitied me, every time you made jokes about my wasted potential, I was signing deals worth more than this entire building." My chief legal officer passed out folders. "These are the real merger terms. As you'll see, they're quite different from what you were expecting." Jessica finally found her voice. "This is some kind of joke. Some kind of trick. Check the business registrations," I suggested mildly. "The patents. The corporate filings. Stone Global's founder and CEO has always been Diana Morrison. I just never bothered to correct anyone's assumptions about who I was or what I did." Dad grabbed one of the folders, his hands shaking as he read. "These numbers. This is currently valued at just over $3.8 billion. My CFO supplied helpfully. "Though that's a conservative estimate." "The computer science degree," Mom whispered, "the one we told you was worthless, led to 3 major patents in cybersecurity. The encryption software I developed is now used by governments worldwide. The artificial intelligence system I created has transformed corporate data management." I leaned forward. "Still think I should have gone to business school." Jessica slumped in her chair, her perfect facade cracking completely. "All those proposals I sent, you were reading them. Every painful word," I confirmed. "Though I particularly enjoyed the one where you claimed to understand the future of tech security, especially since you were using my software to write it." "Why?" she demanded. "Why keep up this pretense? Why let us think?" Because you taught me something valuable, I cut in. All of you did. You taught me that people see what they expect to see. You expected me to be a failure, so that's what you saw. It was the perfect cover for building something extraordinary. I stood up, smoothing my designer suit. Now about this merger. The terms are non-negotiable. Your company will become a subsidiary of Stone Global, with significant management changes. I looked directly at Jessica, starting with your position. You're firing me, she gasped. Not exactly. I'm demoting you to where you should have started, an entry-level position where you can learn the business properly, not just play at being an executive. Dad started to protest, but I held up my hand. This isn't personal, Dad, it's business. Isn't that what you always taught us? The next hour was a blur of contracts, terms, and shocked realizations. My parents sat in stunned silence as their worldview completely inverted. Jessica alternated between anger and disbelief as she realized her career had been in my hands all along. As the meeting wound down, Mom finally asked the question I'd been waiting for. Why reveal yourself now? Why not stay hidden? I smiled, gathering my papers. Because sometimes success isn't just about building something great. Sometimes it's about showing the people who doubted you exactly what they failed to see. Walking out of the conference room, I paused by Jessica's chair. By the way, the reception desk at Palmer Technologies, it's actually empty. I never worked there. I own the building. The drive home that evening was surprisingly peaceful. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from family members who'd heard the news. Thousands who'd mocked my dead-end job now wanted to know if I was hiring. Aunts and uncles who'd used me as a cautionary tale suddenly remembered how they'd always believed in me. I ignored them all, instead calling my real estate agent about a new property I'd been eyeing. Coincidentally, right next door to Jessica's house. The one she'd been so proud of buying with her executive salary. A week later, I sat in my real office, the top floor of the Stone Global building, reading the latest Forbes article about the tech industry's most surprising CEO. The reporter had finally gotten their interview, and the story of the secret billionaire receptionist was making waves. My assistant buzzed in. Your sister is here to see you. She says it's about her new position. I smiled, remembering all the times Jessica had made me wait in lobbies. Tell her she can schedule an appointment with HR like everyone else. Sometimes success isn't about proving people wrong. Sometimes it's about letting them discover just how wrong they've been, all on their own. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Thanksgiving dinner this year, will you still come? I thought about it for a moment, then replied, of course. But this time, I'm hosting. At my real house. After all, what's the point of building an empire if you can't enjoy watching people realize they've been eating dinner with a billionaire who they thought just answered phones? The best revenge isn't served cold. It's served in a penthouse office with a view of the city you secretly own, watching people realize that the sister they pitied now signs their paychecks. And somewhere in a Stone Global building, there's still an empty reception desk. A reminder that success doesn't always look the way people expect it to. Sometimes it looks like a quiet woman in modest clothes, sitting in the corner, building an empire while everyone else is too busy feeling superior to notice.